All right, to talk more about the Just Say No to Trumpism movement, joining us right now, Republican strategist and former senior staff advisor to President George W. Bush, Bradley Blakeman. Also joining us, author and commentator Ellis Henican. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us. First, Brad, I want to get your reaction to Mitt Romney coming out today and getting behind Ted Cruz.
Well, didn't do much help to Marco Rubio in Florida. I don't think that it's going to help very much Ted Cruz in Utah or other places where Cruz is going to need to win. But certainly,
but does it signal to you that, Mitt Romney, obviously Ted Cruz, they don't seem like natural allies, but there's a realism now developing in the Mitt Romney crowd, who failed miserably trying to take on Trump a couple weeks ago, but a realism now setting in that they've got to get behind somebody. They can't just be against Donald Trump.
Well, I just reread the book that Trump gave me, The Art of the Deal. And in the Art of the Deal, one of the core principles were and is that you have to close the deal. And Trump has not closed the deal. So he has to do that. And if he's shy of the 1237 needed to secure the nomination, then he won't get a first ballot, and then it's a contested convention. So the burden is on Donald Trump to close the deal as much as it is for others to stop him.
But aren't we kind of worried about the optics at all? Alice, I want to get your take on this. Regardless, I know how you feel about Donald Trump, but I would think that this would look bad on Republicans to do exactly what you were just saying. If you're against Donald Trump, then go for Cruz. But it sounds like somebody on the Republican ticket, not just waging this war against Trump and going against his supporters also of the Republican Party. I would think this would look very ugly and messy for the Republican Party. Ellis?
You're actually right, Marina. But so does every other scenario you can imagine. You tell me which one looks tidy and delightful. I don't think there is one. As to the question of whether it's unfair to change the rules at the last minute, or whether there's too much pressure, or you know what? That's the business of Washington, is changing the rules for your advantage, right? Every single loophole, every regulatory decision, every speck of corporate welfare is all about getting into those power positions, wrestling advantage for your side. That's what these people do all day long. Of course they're going to do it at their convention.
But I would think this would set a dangerous precedent. I've heard you say that. I've heard you say this, John. Like, they're upset. He played by the rules, fair and square.
Who
and he's
played
winning.
By the rules?
Donald Trump.
Well,
whether you like him or not like him, and that's not the point. But he played by the rules, and he's winning so far. He hasn't won completely.
No, the game is not over.
Right.
You can't say that the rules are being broken or not being broken, or he's playing fair or not playing fair. The system has yet to be played out. The guy's got 700 of the needed 1237. And by the way, let me remind my Democratic friend Ellis that the Democrats have super delegates.
Right. And just to be clear, what I was talking
against the grassroots.
Well, we'll talk about the democratic system in the next segment, but just to be clear, what I was saying is after Super Tuesday, after Donald Trump basically swept the entire contest, that it was time for Republicans either to get behind Donald Trump or pick another candidate.
Exactly.
And get behind them, not just be against Donald Trump.
Or change the rules.
The question here isn't can you do it? The question isn't is there some precedent for screwing around like this? The question is, what's the cost of each of these options? So say Donald Trump, Brett, has 1,100 or 900 or whatever it is, he's way ahead. You deny him the nomination, that has a lot of political costs. There's an awful lot of people who are going to feel like they were robbed.
But to Brad's point, Donald Trump has not closed the deal yet, and this is this is motivating Mitt Romney. I assume he's trying to prevent Donald Trump from closing the deal. If he doesn't get to 1237 before the campaign, the convention, it is fair game. All the rules are written out. They're going to be voted on again when they open up the convention. It's going to be Paul Ryan's job to oversee this spectacle.
Or run for president.
Or run for president. He's the chairman of the campaign. It's going to be interesting. But Brad, you are absolutely right. My one concern, though, is if this is going to come down to an open convention, as Mitt Romney believes it's going to, the RNC has not done a good enough job of explaining that these rules are rules that everybody agreed to before this whole entire campaign began.
Sure, but perception becomes reality, and the reality that Trump is going to try and perceive to the American people is he got robbed. That's what he's going to do, and he's going to say that I came this far and they're taking it away from me. And you know what? There's a certain amount of credibility to that argument, and that's the danger, as Ellis pointed out, is you may be entitled to do it, but at what cost to the party? That's that's the critical decision that the RNC would have to make. Do you want to win the battle and lose the war in November? And it certainly can happen if Trump is denied, if he's so close. How do you take it away from him?
I know we say this almost every single week when we have one of these multiple state contests, but let's just say there's a miracle and Ted Cruz is able to beat Donald Trump in Arizona and maybe even in Utah, or take more than a majority of the contest for some reason. Then there's no more contest for like a month or something like that, and he will be able to say, I beat Donald Trump more than he beat me this last time around. It's going to build the momentum. You know, again, we say this every time, but this is really maybe anybody but Donald Trump's last chance to become the nominee.
All right. It's you got this all planned out.
It's just, you know, it's infuriating that they can't seem to, you know, be for somebody. Don't be against somebody.
All right. We're going to talk about the Democrats next. So stick around, guys. Coming up.
Is Bernie Sanders' campaign nearing its end? According to a new report in the New York Times, President Obama seems to think so. We'll discuss that with our roundtable and what that could mean for the Democratic race. An extremely rare condition, a baby born with part of its heart outside of its body, what doctors are doing now to save its life.
Welcome back to Newsmax Now. Topping your headlines, a terror raid in Belgium nabs 5, including 3 who sheltered one of the prime suspects in the Paris terror attacks, Salah Abdeslam. And 2 suspected robbers are dead and 2 others are injured after being shot by police. It happened outside of a furniture store in Houston. Police say the group is suspected in a string of robberies. For the first time, Seattle police released photos of the Remington shotgun used by Kurt Cobain. The 27-year-old Nirvana frontman committed suicide in 1994. It's settled. Twitter will keep its 140-character limit. The CEO of the social media platform squashed the rumor of raising its character limit while on the Today Show. And shocking video from China. A baby born with an extremely rare condition. His heart, as you can see, is partly on the outside of his body. You can see the baby's heart beating in the middle of his chest with only a very thin layer of skin covering it. Doctors are now working to save the little boy's life. And much of the nation dealing with this severe weather this week. In Illinois, a storm chaser caught this video as a tornado was forming. Ooh, that looks a little eerie. The storm spawned hail and tornado. The East Coast is now bracing for a nor'easter that could bring snow to New England come Monday.
All right, well, President Obama not yet publicly saying that he's going to endorse Hillary Clinton. That might be bad form for the incumbent president to get behind one of the candidates in his own party. But according to the New York Times, President Obama is telling donors that it's nearing the end times for Bernie Sanders' campaign. White House Press Secretary Josh Earnest was asked about this during the press briefing yesterday. This is what he had to say.
What the president has said, both publicly and privately, is that he will have an important responsibility in the summer and fall, once the nomination process has concluded, in bringing the party together and making sure.
And to discuss the president's backdoor dealings, Republican strategist and former senior staff advisor to President George W. Bush, Bradley Blakeman, also with us again, author and commentator Ellis Henican. Thank you, gentlemen, for sticking around. Ellis, just the idea, even though the president isn't actually coming out and saying he's endorsing Hillary, the idea that these rumors are swirling, that he's having secret meetings with Democrats and saying, look, Sanders had a shot, put your support behind Hillary. I would think that would give Hillary quite a boost. Your thoughts?
Well, first of all, yeah, I'm not sure it's a secret meeting. I think that came out of a donor meeting in Austin, Texas.
Well, it's not a secret anymore, right?
Much of a secret. But it's not a secret that these guys try to raise a lot of money, I'll promise you that. Listen, it's just a reality. I mean, he's been very careful to avoid endorsing anybody. And frankly, I'm not sure that he really feels some huge support for one candidate or another. But as it gets closer, and it's Hillary that's really becoming dominant at this point, there are great advantages to Democrats to coming together and beginning to turn their focus to who's going to be the Republican candidate, probably Donald Trump, raising money, registering new voters, getting on message. I mean, all of that stuff, the more quickly you can put the primary behind you, the better off you are. I think that's what the president was saying.
Ellis, are you a Bernie bro or are you with Hillary at this point? Are you ready to just get this thing behind you, and focus on Trump?
Well, I'd vote for. I mean, I'd be for either one of them against anyone.
But you don't have
who's on
a
the
you don't
other
have a
side,
preference
that's
yet.
clear.
You don't have a preference yet. You're not willing to.
I mean, listen. I'm a kind of endorse candidates. I'm not a political hack guy. I like to be able to make fun of all of them.
Okay, fair enough. Now, Bradley, we heard from Josh Earnest, which in one of those classic White House press secretary no answer answers. Not exactly a denial that President Obama said these things behind closed doors, was it?
No, of course not. Look, Barack Obama would like Hillary, but the most important caucus is yet to be had, and that's the FBI caucus, and that's for all the delegates. And if she loses that caucus, she's in big trouble, and so are Democrats. They like to laugh at what the Republicans are going through. That pales in comparison to if Hillary's indicted. She would have to leave the race. And there are 100 FBI agents working on this case as we speak. We know that one of her key aides was just granted immunity. They don't grant immunity unless he's got something to say. So I think it's very dangerous at this time for the president to endorse Hillary Clinton. He should keep his powder dry for a while, and let's see what the FBI comes back with.
Ellis, we keep hearing while people keep pressuring Sanders to get out of the race, and he calls the idea absolutely absurd. Is it absolutely absurd?
Who's pressuring him to get out of the race?
Huh?
I'm not sure who's pressuring him to get. Who is pressuring him to get out of the race?
Well, Bill
I don't hear
Bill
that.
Clinton's pressuring him to get out of the race. Paul Begala and the old, the Clinton inner circle, they're all pressuring him to get out of the
Well,
race.
after she,
Listen. Let me give you.
Debbie
to you as I
Wasserman
see it.
Schultz, I could go on.
What is crucial at this point, and I think most Democrats understand that, is to if Hillary's going to win, is to make sure that the departure of Bernie Sanders is done in a way that doesn't alienate his passionate supporters. Because it's very important in November for them to rally around the eventual nominee, who is almost certainly going to be Hillary, despite Brad's warnings there. And not do it in a way that there's bitterness and anger and anyone feels like they haven't had a chance. And so the entire message at this point is it's Bernie's decision to decide how long he wants to go and the voters' decision. And that's exactly the way it's going to play out, because you can't afford to alienate his supporters.
Well, Bernie Sanders has run a hell of a campaign. You can't take that away from him. He's not really a Democrat, though. He's a democratic socialist, not really part of the party machine. Bradley, you know how these things work. If Bernie Sanders were actually a Democrat, do you think he'd be doing better in this race?
Sure he would. But the fix was in for Hillary from the very beginning because the system was weighted against Bernie. Bernie knows that. With these super delegates and the way the system is set forth, Bernie never had a chance. But I tell you what, it's great window dressing because it appears that Hillary Clinton had a viable candidate to go against. And the fact is, maybe she wouldn't be doing as well as she's doing, but for Bernie Sanders. I think she owes Bernie Sanders a great deal of gratitude for coming into this race and doing as well as he's doing.
right. Do you think she made or that he made her a better candidate, Ellis?
Yeah, and Brett got it exactly right. Bernie has been almost an ideal candidate for Hillary. He's been strong enough that he doesn't look like a wimp, but he hasn't beaten her, right? What else could she ask for? Anything better than that? I don't think that was planned, by the way. I just think that's the way it worked out in life.
Everything's planned when it involves a Clinton, right? I don't know. Bradley, you want to jump in there?
Cynical.
I know, I've been in this game too long.
Hillary
Pardon the
needed
cynicism.
a straw man, and she got one. And Bernie Sanders been a gift to Hillary Clinton, and let's see if it's the gift that keeps on giving.
You know what I also think is interesting? We didn't bring it up, but there's this poll coming out that's saying Hillary's having a difficult time winning over white men. And then we just ran a couple days ago that there was a poll coming out saying that Donald Trump is having a difficult time with women. This could be very interesting if these two end up being...
And neither one of them is very popular with the younger crowd. Obviously, Bernie Sanders is getting a lot of those votes. But today, on the stump, Bernie Sanders highlighted the fact that he beats Donald Trump in that recent NBC News Wall Street Journal poll by a lot. Let's say there is this FBI caucus that Bradley was talking about. Ellis, do you think Bernie Sanders would be a good candidate against Donald Trump?
You know, it's interesting. I mean, I think he's got some weaknesses as a candidate. I mean, the socialist brand is still hard to sell in a lot of places in this country. And he hasn't really been battered yet. He hasn't gone through the negative campaigning that Hillary has. Listen, I think Hillary's a stronger candidate, but I don't know. Donald is alienating a lot of people. He's got very, very high negatives. Maybe Bernie could take him in the end. It'd be very interesting to watch.
Yeah.
Wow.
Looks like Bradley had to go.
He had to
We
go.
lost
He
him.
had to run. It's the weekend. It's Friday. We understand.
Right.
Ellis,
5 o'clock
Brad,
somewhere.
wherever you are, we appreciate you both for joining us here on Newsmax Now. Always a pleasure. Have a great weekend. Well, you've heard people say not everything is black and white, but our next guest says after being sent to prison twice, he believes otherwise. Joe Gagliano joins us next to explain why he's learned there are no gray areas and see how late night turned Paul Ryan and Hillary Clinton headlines into punchlines when Newsmax Now continues.